like you to welcome Steve Bellingham, please.
Thank you very much. Well, to start off, I think I need to get rid of this. It's warming up already.
Lights turned out, Steve.
Well, it might make it easier. Yeah, that's better. Easier to see the screen. So first of all, thank you all very much for giving me the opportunity to come here. David, especially thank you to you. And my friend Michka, who's not here tonight, but she's a lady that I know who comes to some of the talks that I've given in various places. And one day, about a month ago, at one of them, afterwards she said, you know, that, what you said in that talk would be perfect for Mishka. You see, if you talk about someone, eventually they turn up, right? You see?
It must be God.
There we go. That's what happens, right? So, yeah, just like that. Right, now I'm going to start talking about Allie McPherson. Not yet. Doesn't always work, right? Okay. So yeah, Mishka was at one of my talks. I was just talking about you, Mishka. That's why so much, you know. And she said, "Oh, that would be wonderful to put that point of view to some friends that I go to, where we hold various talks and discussions." So, hence she spoke to David, and we organised it, and hence I arrived and came here tonight. So, the topic of tonight's talk is a rationale for a future life. But actually there's two parts to this talk, and I'd like to the first half be thinking about a rationale for believing in a future life. This is just the first part of the talk. The second part of the talk will be actually a rationale for a future life. So for the first part, the rationale for believing in a future life, this is more about, you know, why should we even believe in a future life? The rationale to believe or not believe. Okay. So, and to start with, I have to say and think about, and we need to think about, what is a future life? So what is a future life? Because it can mean many things, right? Am I talking about another life in this three-dimensional world? See, so we think of reincarnation maybe from the way Buddhists talk about reincarnation, is that I'm living now and I die and then suddenly I'm born again into another physical body. So that would be a future life in this three-dimensional world. Or maybe we could be talking about a future life in another world, an invisible world, a spirit world. In Christianity, we find the teachings there, they say that when you die, you'll either go to heaven or hell forevermore, and that's a future life in that world. So really, we need to be thinking about the future life. What is a future life? Well, actually, the second part will be discussing about how both of these work together. You know, so the future life actually includes both a future life in an unseen world and a future life in this world as well. So first point, you know, if we're going to talk about the other world, does the other world really exist? Who can prove that the other world exists? Unfortunately tonight I can't prove to you. Where's my friend? He wanted me to prove it. I cannot prove tonight that the other world exists. But the one thing's for sure, your life will be happier if you believe that it does. Right, this is a key reason on the rationale for believing in a future life. If you can believe that the other world exists, you're going to live your life differently. You're going to live with hope. But if you believe that when you die, there's a world beyond this world, you've got something to look forward to. I look forward to it every day. I absolutely believe in the other world. So I live my life believing that when I leave this world, I'm going back to another world. So I feel really happy about that. If I don't believe that, I'm going to be thinking, what's the point? As a matter of fact, what is the point of even living? To tell you the truth, I did a talk just down in Melbourne, and I'm giving it in Brisbane next weekend. It's called The Truth About Life After Death. But a lot of that talk is about suicide. And quite honestly, if I really rationalise my life and rationalise life itself, if there is no life after death, I have to come to the conclusion that we'd be better off all to commit suicide at the beginning. Really, what's the point? Buddha said life is suffering. And it is suffering. Going through life with this body, I have to have a job, I have to earn money, I have to eat. Sometimes I get hot, sometimes I get cold. I get old, I get aches and pains in my back. Then I look forward to the future of death. If based looking at it like that, there's actually it's a very gloomy outlook. There's no point in even living, or just to die. So you actually go through school, make all that effort, go through work, make all that effort, do everything you can to make effort just to die. There'd be no point. There's no point. Hence, In my opinion. This is all my opinion. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to push anything, but I believe my opinion strongly, so yeah, this is just my opinion. But I think, even though it's my opinion, if anybody breaks it down and rationalizes it, it does make sense that having a belief in the future world is a nice, bright, positive, something to look forward to in my mind. It's like, at the end of my life, I look forward to this. So, this is what I was just talking about, you know, a rationale for believing in a future life. Well, you know what, truth is truth. And actually, it's great that you just said that. It was perfect timing, because this is my opinion. But truth is truth. And whether we believe it or not doesn't alter the fact. So either I'm right or I'm wrong. Okay, so either what I'm saying, it's my opinion, but my opinion is not actually altering the truth. So the truth is that we either continue to exist after our body dies, or we don't. It's one or the other, right? And no matter how strongly my opinion is, it's not going to alter it. And nobody can prove that we do, but nor can anybody prove that we do not. And I think that's your point when you said this is my opinion, right? But if it does, it does, right? Now, depending on how I believe, whether I believe that it does or it doesn't, is going to make quite a difference to how I live my life. So I'd like to consider the two different mindsets: the mindset of the person who believes in a future life, and the mindset of a person who doesn't believe in a future life. Okay, so the person who believes, such as myself, that there's a world, and as I said, this first part is just the rationale for believing in a future life. All I'm talking about right now is not the truth about what I believe in the spirit, in the other world, or life after death, but just the rationale of why we believe. For me, I believe life has meaning and purpose, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, next in the second half. Secondly, I look for something to look forward to at the end of this life. I look forward to waking up dead. You know, I look forward to it. And I've got one book called The 9 Dimensions, written by a great teacher, and there's a man who used to be in New Zealand next door to where I was, and I was working for an organisation. I went over to talk to him. The organisation was called Happy Science. He said, "What's Happy Science?" I said, "Oh, it's a teaching of universal truth." He said, and he was wonderful, he's 72 years old, it was so beautiful, he said, "I'm a genuine seeker." And I laughed, because it felt funny to hear a 72-year-old man say so innocently, "I'm a genuine seeker." And I laughed. He said, "No, really, I'm a genuine seeker. All my life I've been seeking the truth. I've been seeking the way, but I've never really found the right one." And I said, "You have now." And he laughed. And I said, No, David, if you've sought and studied different religions, different ways, you've felt like none of it really completely makes sense, I said, this is the one that brings it all together. So I gave him this book, and it was on a Thursday, and he went away, and he came back on the Tuesday, and he walked in and said, "What a book." And this book talks about this other world and the different dimensions in the other world. But he said, "What a book." He said, "You know, I was reading that book," and he said, "I've always believed in the other world and life after death, but I was reading that book and something went click." He said, "I'm looking forward to seeing the other world now." He said, "I'm not ready to die today. I've got things to do in my life still. But when the time comes, I'm looking forward to it." So for me, this is sort of like an enlightenment. It's the fear of death is completely gone. It's like, I'm happy with my life now. I'm living my life now in a positive way. But I'm looking forward to the end of it to really experience the truth. So I have something to look forward to at the end of this life. And finally, you know, if we believe that God and or high spirits are watching over us and supporting us, we're never really alone. I never feel alone. I feel that God has got my best interest in his heart. I know a lot of people don't like the word God these days, and I don't. I saw out the back there written on the Humanist thing, it says moral values without religious dogma. You know, and that's the key, the religious dogma. That's the problem in today's world. Religion has become so dogmatic that people have moved away from religion. They've pulled away from religion, and with that pulling away from religion, they've pulled away from wanting to talk about God, or wanting to talk about the other world, or wanting to talk about spiritual souls. So unfortunately, that's the part that's created the negativity. So people have sort of pushed that away, and I think that's the unfortunate part. Because for me, having the belief that there's a God that's looking after me, and that there's high spirits and a guardian spirit who's looking after me, I feel I'm never alone, and I really feel like I'm being helped. I'm being helped through my life. For me, on the other side of this, you know, if I choose not to believe, and this is just a choice, the mindset of a person who does not believe in life after death, first of all, I don't see how life can have much meaning or purpose, because I'm just going to die. What was really the meaning of my life if I'm just going to die? I just lived to die. Secondly, there's not really much to look forward to at the end of this life, because we just die. And thirdly, if I don't believe in God, the high spirits are watching over me or supporting me, I'm quite alone. I might have some few family members, but they're going to die too, and then they're gone. And so this is just my perspective about a rationale for why we choose to believe. And you know what? It is a choice. We choose what we're going to believe in every moment of every day. It's a choice. As human beings, we have this mind, and this mind decides if somebody tells me something, will I believe them or not believe them? And even in communist China, we've got such a powerful government that's trying to tell people how they should be and how they should think. Each individual is still responsible and capable of choosing what they're going to think. See, our mind is our own mindset. It's our own domain. Our mind is our domain. We choose what we think. We choose what we want to believe. Now this is something really important too, the result of believing or not believing when the time comes to face the truth. This is, I think, the point that Michka thought was a really valid point, because a person who believes in life after death can only be proven right, whereas a person who didn't believe can only be proven wrong. Now let me explain that. Yeah. If I live my life believing, right, when I die, if I wake up dead, I'm going to go, oh my God, I'm dead. There's my body lying on the ground, but I'm still alive. I really am still alive. I'm in this invisible world. I'm just consciousness. I'm a soul with a mind. I'm still living. I'm glad I lived my life believing that, because I really am. I really am. Now, if I believed that there was nothing after life, nothing after death, and that I was going to die, and I've died, and now I'm like, oh my God, I'm still alive. How come I'm alive? My body's dead. Oh my God, there really is life after death. I was wrong. Now let's flip that around. Let's flip that around, and there is nothing after death. When you die, that's it. All over. Never another thought. Nothing. If I live my life believing, and I don't wake up dead, I'm just dead. I never even get a chance to think I was wrong, because I never have another thought. There will never be another thought. But if I live my life believing there's nothing after death and I die, I don't even get a chance to say I was right, because there's never another thought. So there's absolutely zero chance of winning the bet, right? If you bet there's no life after death and live your life that way, believing that, there's zero chance you can win that bet. If you live your life believing that there'll be life after death, you've got 100% chance of winning your bet and zero chance of losing it. That's the bottom line rationale of why you should live your life believing. There's no other choice. That really is the only choice, to believe. So this really is the first part. But now I'd like to talk about a rationale for a future life. So since I've suggested we should believe, what are we going to believe in? Right, so this is really the second half of the talk tonight, is what should we believe? What can we believe that's going to make my life so positive and meaningful that it's worth believing in, that at the end I find that, gee, I'm glad I believe that. Well, the first part is that human beings are spiritual beings. To believe that I have this body, but not only do I have a body, I also have a soul. Secondly, that this world is a training ground for souls. There's a meaning for this earth. This earth isn't just here by some accident without a purpose. This is a place that we come to train our souls. So I'm this physical body, but in my physical body I have a soul. And the soul is living on this earth for a reason. Thirdly, that the true home of the soul is the spirit world. That there's another world beyond this world. It's not just this world. So I'm not going to live now and reincarnate back into another body and die and reincarnate into another body. Because as Buddha said, life is suffering. And that would be endless suffering. Okay. So tonight I will present an idea that shows the relationship between really what's taught in Christianity and what's taught in Buddhism, and that is there really is another world, such as the heavenly world, but that this world itself just exists as a place for us to leave the heavenly world to come to practice some spiritual training before we return back home again. And I'll explain why we should do that. So as I was just saying, we reincarnate between this world and the spirit world for the purpose of training and developing the soul. Now I'd like to say thank you to this Master Ryuho Okawa, because a lot of what I'm talking about tonight is from books of his that I've been studying since 1990. He's in Japan? Okay, so he made, okay, yeah, and you can see him a lot on YouTube. He's a Japanese man. I've started studying his teachings in 1994. I came across a book called The Laws of the Sun. He attained enlightenment when he was 1994. So as you suggested before, I'm only saying my own opinion. For his case, it's a little bit different because he attained enlightenment and started communicating with the spirit world, seeing the spirit world, and being able to explore the spirit world. And hence, it's a little bit like we used to believe the world was flat, right? Until somebody sailed around and had the experience of going around and coming up the other side. And at that point, they were able to say the world is definitely round. Now, not everybody on the earth could be on the boat to sail around, to come back to the end, to come to the conclusion, to know 100% through their own experience that the world was round. But this person told people of the experience, and those who had faith in what this person told them, for them the reality became that the world was round. But it was based on faith in somebody who had had that experience. So for me it's the same with Yuho Okawa. He's had the experience and has the experience every single day of communicating with the spirit world. I mean, as an example, the man's published 2,100 books, over 2,100 books now. I mean, who can write 2,100 books? In 1 year, he started something called Happy Science University, and in the year that before he was opening the university, he was publishing books for the students to be able to study. In 1 year, he wrote 300 books. In 1 year. There's only 365 days in a year, and they were things like, you know, spiritual messages from Socrates, spiritual messages from Plato. So students are studying the teachings of Plato and Socrates from books that he's written, sometimes just in a day. So I'm grateful, so grateful, and a lot of the ideas, I just wanted to let you know that a lot of the ideas that I'm presenting right now about the other world and the meaning of our life and how the other world exists and how it looks is based on his ideas. This is the structure that I believe of the spirit world, the world that we go to after this life. And just let me then very briefly explain the system of this reincarnation. The idea is that this is our real home, the spirit world, and it's a multi-dimensional structure. And as our souls evolve, as our soul changes and becomes closer and closer to the most beautiful mindset possible, full of love, full of wisdom, full of courage, full of goodness, it has a certain vibration. So even though I have a physical body, and I said I have a spiritual body, the core of my soul is actually my mind. You are what you think about all day long. The thoughts we hold are the most important thing in our whole lives. Training our thoughts and developing wonderful thoughts is the most important thing in our whole life, because that mind is actually what we take with us back to this world. These different stages are different stages of love, you could say, in the other world. I mean, the three-dimensional world of Earth you can see at the bottom, all the souls of all these different dimensions actually incarnate on Earth, and that's what makes this world such an incredible training ground, because you've got souls, as I said, you know, got like-minded people in the other world, but when all the souls of all the different stages are leaving that and coming onto this earth, we've got such a mixture of people on this earth. That's why this world has got such an array of different types of people with so many different ways of thinking, because they've all come from these different dimensions. We've got angels on earth at the same time as people from the fourth dimension who don't believe in life after death. I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to say those who believe in life after death are suddenly, you know, at the bottom, but unfortunately they are, because to enter the fifth dimension requires a belief in spirituality, a belief in the soul, a belief that I'm actually a spiritual being. And the reason I say that is because the fourth dimension is a realm of instinctual love. People living in instinctual love still believe they're a physical being. They go about their life very much as if they were living on this earth. They don't believe they've died, and they continue their life. The fifth dimension, the realm of the good, is a place where people practice what we call fundamental love. They realize they're a spiritual being, and their joy comes from giving love to each other. They feel like, oh, I feel happy when I make other people happy. I feel happy when I see other people happy. Other people's happiness is my happiness. That's why it's the beginning of heaven. The fifth dimension is really the beginning of the heaven. The fourth dimension is really the astral realm. The sixth dimension, the realm of light, is a nurturing love. So people who make an effort to study in their life, to learn something, whether it be you know, some sort of medicine, some sort of music, anything. If you make an effort to study and learn, and then you take that to be able to help other people, you could be a business leader and you're employing people in your business, right? And through that, your effort in studying and learning about business is able to help other people. This is a realm of the sixth dimension. It's a nurturing type love. The seventh dimension is an angelic realm, and this is an altruistic love. So when you want to live your life completely for other people, you stop thinking about yourself and you devote your life. Like Mother Teresa is obviously a great example, but it doesn't have to be that type of, it's just when you live your life devoting your life to other people. The eighth dimension, this is a very high realm, but people like Gandhi, people like Martin Luther King, the great figures of the past, you know, people even like Edison, people who have really left their mark in history are from this eighth dimension. And the final dimension is the Savior. People like Jesus, Moses, Confucius, Buddha, the great teachers of the past. They're in the ultimate realm of the ninth dimension. This is the structure that Yuho Okawa is teaching that exists in the other world. And all of us will end up somewhere in this world when we leave this world. And where it will be completely dependent on the state of your mind. So if you've got a mind that's full of love, full of light, put it this way, just imagine, okay, it's really the law of cause and effect. Our minds have a certain wavelength. Our souls have a vibration, right? Now that vibration, when it leaves this world, is going to be vibrating, and there's going to be similar-minded people around us. So whatever type of thinking we have, there's going to be people around us. Now just imagine for a moment, if during our life, and living in all these difficulties, we created a mind that was full of anger, became a really angry person, and my mind's vibrating like this. When I leave this world, the people around me have got a similar vibration. If I'm living in a world where all the people around me have got angry minds, that's not heaven, right? What it makes me do, though, is it makes me reflect. You know, for us, the bottom realm is actually under the bottom of the fourth dimension, between the fourth and the third. There's what we call a hell realm. It's just a realm of negative conceptual energy. We call it hell, love that takes. Love essentially should be a giving thing. I want other people to be happy. I want to give to other people. I want to make them happy. Love that takes is really, I want to be happy, and I don't care if other people suffer because of my happiness. That's a negative state of mind. So in this, if I have this mindset and the people around me have a similar mindset, what it ultimately does is it makes me reflect on my life. So even hell is like a hospital for damaged souls, because if people really reflect on themselves while they're living in this world, they will change. If a person reflects on themselves and thinks, man, I'm full of anger, I'm really hurting the people around me, you know, I need to change myself, or I've got a greedy mind, all I'm thinking of taking, you know, I need to change that, I've got this greedy mind. If we think like that, we reflect on ourselves and we change. But if we don't reflect and we don't change, eventually what we're faced with when we get back to the other world is people with the same mind as us. And eventually we see the ugliness in that mind, and we say, oh, I don't like that, because actually I'm the same, I need to change. Now the beautiful thing is, I know you said about the dogma of religion, this type of teaching, or this is nothing dogmatic about it, because it's not saying if you do this you will be sent to hell. All it's saying is that through the law of cause and effect, you will be with like-minded people. What sort of people do you want to be with? So if during your life you created a mind of what we call love that gives, which just means I want to make other people happy. I feel happy when I see other people happy. I've got a certain warmth in my heart that I'm feeling positive goodwill towards other people. Everybody I meet, I'm wishing good things on them. When we leave this world, we'll be with like-minded people. Everybody just wishing goodwill on each other. And this really is the beginning of the heavenly world. And from there's no limit. Because each one of us can become people who want to live our lives for the benefit of other people. And one thing about this, where it says here, as the soul evolves, it enters higher dimensions, this really comes back to the whole meaning and the purpose. Now you say, why would such a structure exist? As I was saying before, this is the real home. And on average, we will spend 300, 400, 500 years in this world, depending on our state of mind. Wherever our state of mind is, this is where we'll be, with like-minded people, and even with our family groups and the people we love. So the people you love in this world, and once again back to the beginning where I said a rationale for why we should believe in this life after death, is that if you can believe that the people you love, who are definitely going to die, one thing I can guarantee is, you know, death is going to happen to all of us. If we can really believe that the people I love are going to leave this world, they're going back somewhere else, and I'm going to see them again in the future, that's a wonderful, joyous thought. To me, that's a wonderful, joyous thought, that my future is I'm going to see them in the future. And we build these family groups.
Doesn't that mean you abandon your responsibilities in this life?
Absolutely not.
You're relying on the next life?
I'm not relying on the next life. I would never want to abandon. See, you never want to abandon your responsibilities in this life, because how you live in this life makes a difference to where you find yourself in the next life. And there's no such thing as abandoning your responsibilities in this life if all you're doing is believing that there's a wonderful future. See, and that will bring us through to something future shortly, because there's two sides to this purpose of our life. One is to refine and develop our souls eternally. See, as we develop ourselves, as we progress, as our soul progresses closer towards this ultimate consciousness, we feel happy. That's where true joy comes from. As we develop our love, all of us are essentially beings of love. As we develop our love, we feel happy. So progress really means the development or expansion of love. And as I become a person who can love more and more people with less and less attachments, fill my heart with more and more love, become more and more magnanimous, then I just feel happier and happier, right? That's one part of the whole purpose of my life, is to polish this, discover my divine nature and bring it out. That's one half. The second half, back to what you're asking, is that is to help develop society. Because we all come back to this world. As I said, 400 or 500 years we might spend back in this other world, the spirit world, but eventually I'm coming back here for my soul training. So my soul training has two sides to it. One is to develop myself. Two is to help develop society. We want to create an ideal world. We want to create the most beautiful, wonderful planet that we can. Not just individual countries, but every society, every country, all throughout the world. So that no matter where we're born, when we come back, it's a beautiful world. If we, yes, ma'am.
Do you believe in karma?
I absolutely believe in karma. And karma, because that's part of the law of cause and effect. I mean, karma, wherever I end up in the spirit world, is part of my karma. So karma is the law of cause and effect. So whatever I give out, I get back. And yeah, so that's another reason why in our life, if we just try to create goodness and give love in our life, we'll eventually just, that love will come back. But if I create suffering in any way in my life, eventually that suffering comes back to me as well. So yeah, karma is a very much, I absolutely believe in karma, but essentially karma meaning the law of cause and effect. What you give out, you eventually get back. And you see...
You'd like to think you do.
Yeah, well I believe I do, and so that means I live a good life. So even from a humanist perspective, it actually would make sense, because if I believe in karma and that all good things are going to come back and all bad things are also going to come back, I'm going to want to live my life in the most possible... I absolutely believe in God as well.
Excuse me, everybody.
Yeah.
Could we wait
Yeah.
until Steve Bellingham is
Yeah.
finished,
So-
then you can throw everything you've
Yeah.
got at him.
Absolutely, you can throw it all on
He will
my,
happily
and I'll catch.
on the chin or whatever.
Or wherever, I'll turn my head, yeah.
Thank
But
you.
no worries. So yeah, so based on this, just this idea is that this is our true home, the spirit world, and then if we leave here every 300-400 years, 500 years, we plan a life, we choose a life. We're also born back often with our same family members. You know, so actually in one life I could be the, I could be someone who's my mother, could be my sister in my next life, you know. So we are actually often born back in the same people, and we gather in the same groups back also when we get back to the spirit world. Now the core of the soul is the mind. So I've been talking about the soul, you know, so I have my physical body and I have my spiritual body, and then my spiritual body takes on the same shape as my physical body. But the core of the soul is my mind, and our mind's actually more located in the chest area rather than the head. This here is more like a computer, you know, this is used for thinking. But you know, our feelings, when we cry, when our feelings well up, they come from down below, you know. It's the soul that makes us cry. The brain doesn't make us cry. The soul's what makes us cry. You know, the fact that we cry at all shows there's something beyond just this mechanical brain that says, oh, cry now, you know. Crying's about feeling's about the soul. And when we return to the other world, the only thing we take with us is our mind. And this is what I was just really emphasizing, is that since the mind is the only thing you take with us, there's nothing more important than our life polishing that mind. But while we're alive on earth, there's actually, our minds are already working like a magnet. You know, so actually while I'm alive in this world, my mind is already connected to this other world from which I came from. So if I create a beautiful mind, my mind is connected, you know, to somewhere in the other world, and I'm going to be inspired by some beings from that other world. And as I've got here, like attracts like. And in the other world you'll find yourself with similar minded people, but not only when you're in the other world, but even in this world. If you create the mind of an angel, which just means really you want to live your life serving people. You want to live your life benefiting humanity. You want to live your life bringing happiness to as many people as possible. If you can live with that mindset, beings in the other world with a similar mindset will work to help you. Right? And like attracts like. The mind's like a magnet. If on the other hand you've got a mind that says, I really don't care about other people, I'm going to get rich, everyone else can bow to me, I'm the most important person, your mind's going to be attracted to other beings with a similar mindset in the other world. And that's not a heavenly state of mind. That's a me orientated mind, and then people become more and more that way orientated. So as it says here, you know, there's nothing more important in this world than making our mind the most beautiful mind that we can. And you know what? All of us started off, this room's full of, we're all, except for you, you're nice and young still, but you know, most of us are over middle age and over. Oh yeah, you I was talking about, yes, you're the one. And I love it, great sense of humour. So I was talking about this lady over here. You're younger than most of us, but most of us are like, you know, we've reached the middle or beyond, right? And not one of us is as good looking as we were at 20, you know. Except for you, sorry. I am sorry, I apologise, except for the one. And at 18, you know, we were in our prime as our looks go, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, you know. we're losing our looks, and as we get older we'll continue to lose our looks, and we'll get more pains, our body will wear down, you know, we won't be as agile.
Things start to go wrong.
So many things go wrong with the body, right? But here's one beautiful thing that's a saving grace to all of this. The mind can be more beautiful when it leaves this world than when we came in. Our mind can be so beautiful. We can and to create a beautiful mind, we're going to talk about how to do that, you know, shortly. But the mind, essentially, we have this divine nature in us. We have this mind that cares about other people. We have a mind that wants to love other people, and it believes in a goodness. And this part of ourself is our true self. I mean, we've got another self which actually is really much our physical body base, which tries to protect ourselves. And there's really a battle in our life between this part of ourself that wants to protect ourselves, make sure I'm okay, make sure I don't suffer, make sure I'm never without, and the other part of ourself that really just wants to live to bring happiness to other people and feels joy in giving to other people. And this really brings me to exploration of the right mind and the principles of happiness. Exploration of the right mind is the mind, this beautiful mind that we all have in us. And this is the most important thing to explore and make shine, because this is the part you're taking back with you to the other world. This is the part that can be more beautiful than you were when you're 18 or 20. At 18 or 20 we're all pretty selfish, you know. At that stage it was very much me orientated, unless we were a really exceptional person. But for most people, teenagers, it's all about me, you know. But by the time we reach our ages, we can start to realize there's something else beyond that. There's a self inside that's my true nature. Who is this true self? Who is this self that just, I want to love? You know, it's not about looks, it's not about ownership. It's about loving family, it's about loving friends. It's about doing good things and feeling love for each other. So the first stage is love. You know, and love, okay, there's so many poems, there's so many movies, there's so many stories about love. But the real simple thing about love is to give love without expecting anything in return. This is the first thing to practice if you want to create a beautiful mind. And this is the hardest thing, but it's the most important thing. Do something for others without expecting something in return. And often we think we're doing it, but we're not. Because especially in relationships, we do something for our partner, and then they don't react the way we want them to react, and then we get angry and an argument ensues. So we weren't giving love at all. We were taking love. I was doing something with an expectation, you didn't live up to my expectation, you need to change. Right? But the joy of love is this power that comes through the universe, and when you love other people, you just feel happy. In the moment you give love, no expectations, forget the expectations, enjoy the feeling of doing and giving love to other people. That's where the joy lies. That's the secret of love, feeling the joy in loving, but cut off the expectations.
But it is also really nice to be loved.
That's the icing on the cake, is when you are loved back. You know what though? It's true though, that as you give love, you feel love. That's when you experience love. Yeah, to be loved back, of course. We all love to be loved back. But it's great not to need that. And when you don't need that, you experience a lot more love back. Wisdom is the second stage. Study the teachings of great figures and come to deeply believe that the other world exists. As I said, this is back to the idea at the beginning, the rationale for believing in the other world. If we study the teachings of the great masters, people like Buddha, Jesus, Confucius, Socrates, Plato, so many great masters, Einstein, they will talk about their belief in something beyond this world. Newton, great masters, many people believe. So if we study their teachings, we can get a wisdom from their perspective. Self-reflection is the third. These are 4 principles that I'm about to put up here. When I say the principles of happiness, there's actually 4 of them. And these 4 principles make up the exploration of the right mind. So exploration of the right mind is finding this beautiful mind within and developing it and making it shine more. And these are the 4 principles that we use. So the third one, self-reflection, is to reflect on yourself. Discover that divine nature. Discover that beautiful mind within. And be determined to make that, to bring that shining out. And when we find mistakes, so when we reflect on ourselves, oh, you know, I had an argument with my partner and I said this and I hurt her and, you know, I really was expecting things. I must apologize. I'm really sorry for hurting you. I'm really sorry I said those words. When we reflect on ourselves, we can see our mistakes. When we see our mistakes, we can polish them and change them. Because actually through self-reflection, past mistakes can be undone. This is one of the things that Master Yuhokawa spoke about, that's a miracle actually of self-reflection. He said through our lives, all our thoughts, words and actions are actually recorded on a thought tape. So all of us have as a part of our soul, part of our mind, a thought tape. And when we leave this world and go back to the other world that I was talking about, in an instant we can see what sort of life we lived, because all of our thoughts are recorded on this thought tape, and depending on the thought, they're recorded in a colour. If your thought is in tune with the mind of God, or a beautiful heavenly thought, it's printed in gold. If it's an angry thought, it's in red. If it's a jealous thought, it's in green. And there's many different types of colours. And he said all too often these different shades of different colour are all mixed up and become what he said was an indescribably unpleasant shade of grey. So often we can get back to heaven and we can see this in an instant. We can see, here's my life. Oh, grey, grey, grey. Oh, here's a bit of gold. Oh, grey, grey, grey. Oh, here's a bit of gold. And we're so happy when we saw the gold. But he said, the miracle of self-reflection, if we spend time in our life self-reflecting, looking back over our lives, finding the times in our lives when we might have been living mistaken ways, and we really apologise deeply in our heart to the people involved, to God and to ourselves, we can change that. He said the miracle is, in the other world, this what was grey turns to gold. Because, as I said, the whole purpose of this life is a training ground for us. We're here to learn about our true nature. We're here to be able to develop ourselves. So if we are living wrongly and then we reflect and we alter the way we were living and we reflect and we learn our mistake, of course it turns to gold, because that was the whole purpose of it in the first place. Right? So the miracle of self-reflection is you can undo past mistakes through self-reflection. It's like an eraser. And no matter how bad that mistake is, even a murderer, if they reflect and repent and see the problem of their ways and really apologise deeply, they can get rid of that mistake and they can be forgiven. Third is, the final one is progress. Make efforts to progress, to improve yourself and contribute to the building of an ideal society. As I was saying, we have twofold path of our purpose of our life on this earth. One is to refine myself, create this beautiful mind, explore the right mind, polish our mind. Secondly, to help develop society. And both bring us happiness. Developing myself makes me happy, but also contributing in some way to society also makes me happy. When I can see that my actions are benefiting people around me and making other people happy, that's a big part of my happiness. So whether the other world exists or not, living with this belief will lead to a happier and more meaningful life. I mean, this is my view. This is obviously my perspective, and I can't prove any of this. But I know how I live my life, and I know how I feel every day. And I truly believe, by having this perspective, that my life has meaning, that there's a world beyond this world, that I'll return there when I leave this world, that by creating the most beautiful mind that I can in this world, by practicing giving love without having any expectations and attachments, makes me feel happy every day. And whether the other world exists or not, I'm still happy every day. And if it does exist, I'm going to be so happy that I live this way. And if it doesn't exist, I'm never going to have a chance to know that I was wrong. So I look forward to life after death, even though I feel I want to contribute to society and I want to do as much as I can now. I want to build a wonderful personality full of love and no attachments. I don't want to need anything. I just want to live my life giving, and that makes me feel so happy. I don't need anything from anybody. I just want to give. I can emancipate myself from suffering of birth, aging, illness and death. Buddha said these are the four pains we can't escape: birth, aging, illness and death. Birth is just the pain of being born in a physical body. Living in a body is painful. I've got so many worries and concerns. Aging, we're all getting older, you know, but if I don't associate with myself with my body, I don't feel that suffering. It's not me, that's just my body, it's my vehicle. You know, my car, I do suffer a little bit when my car gets older and breaks down too, but you know, my body, if I think it's me, I really suffer. But if I know it's not really me, I don't suffer. Illness, of course, we all get ill, and death. Well, you know, I know death's just the closing of one door and the opening of another back into my spirit world. And I want to be in a position after death to be able to say, I'm glad I lived believing there was life after death. I've made the most of my life. I want to be able to live that way. And unless I believe in life after death, I can never live that way. It's through my faith and believing. So I think tonight I've really just been trying to say two sides. One, the rationale for believing, why I should believe. And secondly, what I believe in. And why it actually has meaning. Why it's not just some dogma. It's an idea that this was a wonderful creation by God to help us develop our souls through eternity. See, if we live in eternity, we were souls that were created, right, made of light and conscious energy that can live in this realm of light, you know, so it doesn't break down like physical bodies. It's just living, it's consciousness. Consciousness can live anywhere. So if I'm just this consciousness and it's going to live in eternity, there has to be a way to experience happiness in eternity, right? There has to be a way for my soul to feel happy forever. And this is the wonderful system that God set up, because how I feel happy is as I progress back to become closer and closer to the mind of God. As I feel myself progressing to become closer, to become more and more like God, I can feel happy. That's where progress makes happiness. Actually, it doesn't matter in life, no matter where. If you're progressing, you feel happy. If anyone's played the piano, or if anyone's done artwork, or anyone's maybe done track work, or no matter what you've done, swimming, anything, if you do something, if you get better at it, it brings in a sense of joy. Progress always leads to happiness. Well, ultimate progress for us is the progress of the soul. And while the soul progresses, it feels happy. So this is a system that was created so the soul can progress through eternity. I live in this world, spirit world. Sure, the more evolved my soul, the longer the gap between incarnations. You know, someone like Jesus or Buddha probably incarnates every 2,500 years. An average soul maybe 200 or 300 years. But still, that's all relative to the you know, the soul's development. But if my happiness, I'm living in this world and I come down to this world, it's like going to the gym for the soul. I need to go train my soul. I need to go for a workout. Like our physical body. If we go to the gym, it's suffering, it's difficult. We've got to work at it. And people suffer when they're at the gym, but they do it because they know it's good for them. If we leave this heavenly world, we come to the spirit, into these physical bodies where it's suffering and difficult because we know it's good for my soul, and I return back a more healthy soul, a happier soul. This cycle of reincarnation between that world and this world in eternity is so that we can experience eternal happiness. That's the whole meaning and the purpose of the system, right? So I've given the rationale for believing and the rationale for why the system was set up. Because through eternal progress, we feel eternal happiness. And eternal progress from this eternal reincarnation between the spirit world and this physical world, back to the spirit world, back here, back there, bounce, bounce, bounce. But we spend more time in the other world. We spend far more time in the other world. And we don't need to sleep. We don't need to work. You do whatever you want all day long. If you want to go somewhere, you think you're going that way, and you go there because your mind takes you there. And the more you develop the understanding about the spirit world, the more real it becomes, and the more you look forward to being there when your time comes. But because you know that this world's an opportunity to train and develop the soul, you have no intention of cutting your life short. You've got no intention of just suddenly wanting to give up on this life, because you really want to live this life the most you can, to make the most out of this life before you return home. So that really is the end of my talk tonight. I think I've just tried to present, you know, the rationale for why you should believe, and the rationale of what's so wonderful about the system between reincarnation, between the other world, our home, our true home, and this world. Thank you all very much for listening.